Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Puteri Nurnajla Raihan binti Abdul Razak from Group 25, a company of multi-vision construction and consultancy under the Department of Project Planning and Scheduling. Today I'm going to present my major part that I have successfully done together with Shamil Farizam with the supervision of Encik Abdul Rahim bin Abdul Hamid. So what do project planning and scheduling department do? So we actually find a project and plan and schedule the whole project. And there are actually two elements that need to be addressed, which are the project scheduling and estimation. So the figure shows here are the stages to develop a project schedule and the scope of work for Department of Project Planning and Scheduling. Starting from the stage 1, which is the preparation of WBS, work breakdown structure, identify the task and its relationship by preparing MS project, listing out the resources used, searching for productivity rate to calculate the duration of project and also the cost of the project. Then from there we can identify the critical path which will be shown later in the slides. Then we need to develop a DWS, which is a detailed work schedule, consists of Gantt chart showing the work from start to finish and also the S-curve graph, which shows the cost, labor time or other amount plotted against the time, and the network diagram. The example of calculation is also going to be shown later in the slides, which is the calculation of task duration and also the cost. So for the project overview, we actually constructed a two-way road construction and road upgrading at Cameron Highland Pahang. The construction focusing on infrastructural works, including the construction of RC wall, micropiling works, drainage system, water reticulation, sewerage system, and the major part road works, as well as some electrical works. So for the major works, which is road, a two-way road is constructed with an area of 3 meter width times 2 lane, with approximately 1 kilometer length. And this project is estimated to be done for 266 days and starting from 6th of January 2020 until 27th of September 2020. The total cost is 10,284,678 ringgit and 30 cents. So the figure shows, figure 2 here shows the site layout of the project with the proposed road construction around the area, while the figure 3 shows the zoom in of a road model located at the business area. Okay, so the first stage of developing the project is actually having a WBS, which is shown here. The work breakdown structure for the road construction in Cameron Highlands, Pahang. From here, we can see that the work are divided into 4 major parts, which is earthwork, substructural works, structural works, and also external works. This WBS is needed to make sure all the detailed construction of a project is shown here. And from here also the budget project can actually be assigned accordingly from the top levels to the of the work breakdown system until the budgets can actually easily determine, since all the tasks are breaks down into smaller and more manageable sections. So from WBS, we can then identify all the tasks. And when we put all the tasks in MS project, we can identify what kind of relationship does the task undergoes. And there are 4 types of relationship, like shown here, which is finish to start, start to start, start to finish, and finish to finish. The tasks are done depending on the relationship. There will be tasks like will be start together with the previous task or start a little bit or even sometimes after the previous work is done. And from there also we can identify if there are tasks in a critical position, and if it's critical, no delay can be allowed, and vice versa. We also need to include resources for every work done. Resources, to identify the resources, we need to know what kind of work does the certain activity is done, like what type of materials will be used or machineries and plant is needed, and also how much manpower do that work need. in that allocated time, because some work will need less resources, but if the time is short, more amount of resources is needed to finish the work on time. And also the cost must be taken into account so that the resources and cost is stable. And it is all depending on the budget, time and resources used. There will also a calculation duration of work and also calculation of cost, like as shown in the table at the sides there. It is the productivity rate from CIDB that I have found for the calculation of duration and also cost calculation for this project. There are actually some of the rate that are not there, and we try to find from another resources, which is from subscribe and engineeringbook.net. So here are the example that I take from the report of calculation of task duration. So here is the here is the equation of task duration, which is quantity of works over number of labors time productivity rate. So for this task example, we use productivity rate from CIDB as shown here, and I take a road curve as the example for this presentation. And for the road curve, we use 2 skilled workers and 6 general workers. And the starting of the work is actually laying of concrete curb. And from the rate received from CIDB, which is 0.95, we after calculation we achieve a number of 8 days for laying of concrete curb. And for formwork, we get 4 days of installation of formwork. And the productivity rate also we get from the CIDB here. And then for the filling of cement and sand, again the rate is taken from the CIDB, and total number of 3 days is taken to fill the cement and sand for the curb. And all the summation of days is 15 days, make up the total duration of road curb task. So for the cost estimation calculation, I took example 6, which is the calculation of road work for the wearing cost work. And the total amount of particular works is actually gained from the summation of all the resources used in this activity. And this include the manpower, material, as well as the machineries used for these tasks. And the total cost is shown here in the MS project that we have calculated. And all the rate is actually taken from CIDB rate, as I have said previously. So this is the BQ, and this is the MS project, and this is the calculation that we have calculated. Here are the table entry that shows the task WBS from the previous figure, duration of the work, predecessor of every task, and from the predecessor we can actually see there are different types of relationship of tasks depending on the work, and there are also appears to have a lagging in some of the tasks here. And the start of the work, finish of the work, and also the resources used for certain tasks. This table is actually extracted from the MS project that we have inserted all the data. And finally, for the detailed work schedule, it's actually obtained from the MS project. And detailed work schedule, DWS, is actually defined as the work schedule of an employee, includes the days and times it is expected. And this is going to be a fixed number of days and hours in most situations. And this is presented in Gantt chart and as well as S-curve. So for the Gantt chart is explains on the detailed project from the start to end of the activity. So for the S-curve, it actually help to track the progress over time, like to determine the status of the project. And we also have a network diagram for this. And this is actually important especially when submitting the tender, because the client normally will identify if the contractor is able to do the work or not, following the expected duration that they want or with the logical cost and flow of work. If too much cost in the beginning is actually not good for the client, and this can actually be seen from the S curve. Okay, so for the Gantt chart presented, here is a detailed work schedule, and we can actually see the ending, which tasks that have ended, and is ongoing, also upcoming work, like here, upcoming work. And from here we can actually see this, the all the tasks is started on January. The project is started on January and ends on September. And from here we can see all the time frame of the major activity, like here, major activity of road work and electrical works here. And also the red color path determine that it is actually a critical path, like this one. And this is actually happen due to the limitation of time and also resources. Critical path is actually good, as it can actually increase the productivity of the work. But having too many critical paths will sometimes reduce the productivity of the worker itself. And the blue line here is actually shows the normal task, the normal duration of task, and that is not critical, and some delay may be allowed. And the orange vertical here is actually the current date. Okay, then this is the network diagram, and this is a zoom in of some tasks. And from here we can actually see there is a task name, the start of the activity, finish of the activity, and also the resources used at the certain task. So in order to obtain the S curve, the cost need to be inserted in the MS project first. The option here is actually the cost taken from the MS project, and using the calculation shown previously, there are actually fixed cost entry of the project that extracted from the MS project, and from here the S curve will be obtained. Okay, so the S curve actually shows the data of the cost versus the time, which is in a week. And the S curve, actually the name of the S curve derived from the S shape like of the curve. Where's my curve here, and flatter at the beginning. Normally it's gonna be flatter at the beginning, and then steeper in the middle. Actually, it's typical for most projects. So for this project, we can see that the project does not use much cost in the beginning, with stable increment throughout the project. The beginning represents a slow, deliberate, but accelerating start, while the end is start to get less steep and decelerated since the work runs out. So for the conclusion, uh, to start the scheduling of a project, we must actually first identify the tasks, provide WBS, and then cost and duration of the work. Then identify the resources and display in the Gantt chart to see the progress of the work easily. Then we can actually determine how fast a project progress from the S curve project. S curve shows the progress of the work over time and form a historical record for the project trends and variation. So this actually, having an S curve actually helps in measure whether a project is actually ahead of time or delay or just on time, depending on the actual progress of the S curve plotted. So to manage a project properly, a proper scheduling plays a very important role. After developing a project schedule, one should always monitor the status of the project activities and updates of the project progress regularly. The key benefit of this process to recognize deviation from a plan. From that, we can take the precaution and preventive measures to minimize the deviation. So with that, I thank you.